All right, so we're going to start today by reading this story, Three Wise Guys, which you have in front of you. It's also subtitled. It's not on this particular version, but I've seen the subtitle with it before, Un Cuento de Navidad, which of course means a Christmas story. So it's a festive little story by Sandra Cisneros, who wrote The House on Mango Street, which we read. So just kind of a fun little story that we're going to do some work with to help us get ready for some testing that we'll do next semester, and just to talk about some of the pieces of literature. Do something different. So you guys have been working really hard on your writing, so this is new and kind of nice. So we're going to go ahead and read it. On the left side, you'll notice there's some of those questions that you're going to do throughout. So just pay attention, and I'll give you a little time to work on those as we're going through. So here we go. The big box came marked, "Do not open till Xmas." But the mama said not until the Day of the Three Kings. Not until Dia de los Retos, the 6th of January. Do you hear? This is what the mama said exactly. Sorry about the bell. Only she said it all in Spanish, because in Mexico, where she was raised, it is the custom for boys and girls to receive their presents on January 6th and not Christmas, even though they were living on the Texas side of the river now, not until the 6th day of January. So if you look at the left side, we have a couple of side notes. The first one says, actually, Dia de los Reyes means Day of the Kings. The kings were magi, or the wise men. So like in the story of Jesus being born for Christmas, the wise men bring gifts to Jesus. So that's what the Day of the Kings is, Dia de los Reyes. Probably some of you know that very well, because your mamas make you wait till the 6th of January too. Or maybe you get double presents. Who knows? Anyway, then it says text structure. Notice the superscript numbers. Superscripts are the raised numbers next to some of the words. This one says the Spanish words, but the first word there that it's next to is river, has a 1 next to it. These numbers are references to the footnotes at the bottom of the pages. Why are the footnotes important in this story? So if you look at river, number 1, it tells us the river means the Rio Grande, which separates Mexico and Texas. And so a lot of the words that are footnoted there are Spanish words, tortillas, chicaras, urracas. So it helps us understand, if we're not as familiar with Spanish, some of the words that we might not know. So why are they footnoted? Why are the footnotes important? It helps us to understand the story. So you can go ahead and write that down while we continue on. Yesterday, the mama had risen in the dark, same as always, to reheat the coffee in a tin saucepan and warm the breakfast tortillas. The papa had gotten up coughing and spitting up the night, complaining how the evening before the buzzing of the chicaras had kept him from sleeping. By the time the mama had the house smelling of oatmeal and cinnamon, the papa would be gone to the fields, the sun already tangled in the trees, and the urracas screeching their rubber screech cry. The boy Ruben and the girl Rosalinda would have to be shaken awake for school. The mama would give the baby Gilberto his bottle, and then she would go back to sleep before getting up again to the chores that were always waiting. This is how the world had been. If you look on the left side where it says what and why, it says find and underline 3 examples of imagery in this paragraph. What does the imagery add to the story? So remember, imagery, we talked a little bit about that when we were reading House on Mango Street, is when the author says something that creates like a very strong image in the mind of the reader. It like paints a picture for the reader. So one piece here that I think is really good imagery is when it says the mama had risen in the dark, same as always, because that's also from House on Mango Street, when the papa gets up in the dark. He doesn't get up in the dark because they can't sleep. They don't get up in the dark because they want a snack. They get up in the dark because it's still dark outside when they get up to start working and doing the things they need to do for their family. So instead of saying the mama got up really, really early, it says the mama rose in the dark. It's a nice image. It helps us kind of picture her getting up in that dark, and it gives us some imagery. So underline that. I would also say another piece of imagery is when it talks about like our senses, 5 senses, like smell. So about halfway down where it says the mama had the house smelling of oatmeal and cinnamon. You can imagine that smell. You can picture everybody kind of waking up to the smell of breakfast. Okay. Now look through the rest of that paragraph and find one other example of imagery and underline it. Okay, here we go. Page 237. But today the big box had arrived. When the boy Ruben and the girl Rosalinda came home from school, it was already sitting in the living room in front of the television set that no longer worked. Who had put it there? Where had it come from? A box covered with red paper with green Christmas trees and a card on top that said, "Merry Christmas to the Gonzalez family. Frank, Earl, and Dwight Travis. P.S. Do not open till Xmas." That's all. 2 times the mama was made to come into the living room, first to explain to the children and later to their father how the brothers Travis had arrived in the blue pickup and how it had taken all 3 of those big men to lift the box off the back of the truck and bring it inside, and how she had had to nod and say thank you, thank you, thank you over and over because those were the only words she knew in English. Then the brothers Travis had nodded as well, the way they always did when they came and brought the boxes of clothes or the turkey each November, or the canned ham on Easter, ever since the children had begun to earn high grades at the school where Dwight Travis was the principal. So on the right side there it says it wants us to infer. That means make a conclusion or figure out, why do the brothers bring clothes and food on the holidays? What can you infer? What can you figure out about the family's financial status? So financial status would have to do with their money. So why do you think they bring clothes and food to the family? And what does that tell us maybe about the family's amount of money that they have? Take a minute and answer those questions. Okay. But this year, the Christmas box was bigger than usual. What could be in a box so big? The boy Reuben and the girl Celinda begged all afternoon to be allowed to open it. And that is when the mama had said 6th of January, the day of the 3 kings, not a day sooner. It seemed the weeks stretched themselves wider and wider since the arrival of the big box. The mama got used to sweeping around it because it was too heavy for her to push in a corner. But since the television no longer worked, ever since the afternoon the children had poured iced tea through the little grates in the back, it really didn't matter if the box obstructed the view. Visitors that came inside the house were told again the story of how the box had arrived, and then each was made to guess what was inside. It was the comadre Elodia who suggested over coffee one afternoon that the big box held a portable washing machine that could be rolled away when not in use, the kind she had seen in her Sears Roebuck catalog. The mama said she hoped so because the wringer washer she had used for the last 10 years had finally gotten tired and quit. These past few weeks she'd had to boil all the clothes in the big pot she used for cooking the Christmas tamales. Yes, she hoped the box was a big portable washing machine. A washing machine, even a portable one, would be good. But the neighbor man Cayetano said, "What foolishness, comadre. Can't you see the box is too small to hold a washing machine, even a portable one? Most likely God has heard your prayers and sent a new color TV." With a good antenna, you could catch all the Mexican soap operas, the neighbor man said. You could distract yourself with the complicated troubles of the rich and then give thanks to God for the blessed simplicity of your poverty. A new TV surely would be the end of all your miseries. Each night when the papa came home from the fields, he would spread newspapers on the cot in the living room where the boy Reuben and the girl Celinda slept, and sit facing the big box in the center of the room. Each night he imagined the box held something different. The day before yesterday, he guessed a new record player. Yesterday, an ice chest filled with beer. Today the papa sat with his bottle of beer, fanning himself with a magazine, and said in a voice as much as a plea as a prophecy, "Air conditioner." But the boy Reuben and the girl Celinda were sure the box was filled with toys. They had even punctured it in one corner with a pencil when their mother was busy cooking, but they could see nothing inside but blackness. Only the baby Gilberto remained uninterested in the contents of the big box, and seemed each day more fascinated with the exterior of the box rather than the interior. One afternoon he tore off a fistful of paper, which he was chewing when his mother swooped him up with one arm, rushed him to the kitchen sink, and forced him to swallow handfuls of lukewarm water in case the red dye of the wrapping paper might be poisonous. You can see on the right side there's a really good question there. What do you learn in lines 60 to 89 about each person based on what he or she hopes is inside the box? So we're not going to answer that question right now because we're going to come back to it, but I do want you to think about that. Like when one person says, "Oh, it must be a portable washing machine," and the other a color TV, and Papa's got all these ideas too, and the children are like, "It's toys." What does that tell us about each of them? What does that reveal about their personality, or what can we learn about them based about what they hope is in the box? When Christmas Eve finally came, the family Gonzalez put on their good clothes and went to midnight mass. They came home to a house that smelled of tamales and atole, and everyone was allowed to open one present before going to sleep. But the big box was to remain untouched until the 6th of January. On New Year's Eve, the house was filled with people, some related, some not, coming in and out. The friends of the papa came with bottles, and the mama set out a bowl of grapes to count off the new year. That night, the children did not sleep in the living room cot as they usually did because the living room was crowded with big fannied ladies and fat-stomached men sashaying to the accordion music of the midget twins from McAllen. Instead, the children fell asleep on a lump of handbags and crumpled suit jackets on top of the Mama and Papa's bed, dreaming of the contents of the big box. Okay, do you see where it says what and why at the bottom of page 239? It says underline the images in lines 100 to 116 that help you imagine what the house was like on the holidays. So on New Year's Eve, the house was filled with people, some related, some not, coming in and out. Actually, I need to go further back. Sorry. When Christmas Eve finally came, line 100, the Gonzalez family put on their good clothes and went to midnight mass. They came home to a house that smelled of tamales and atole. So that's a strong image, that smell when you walk in and you smell that yummy food that's been cooking while you've been at church. So that would be a really nice image to underline. And then I really like some of the images there when they talk about the New Year's Eve and what that was like. So take a minute right now, read through that paragraph, the last paragraph on page 239, and look for those images. What's really a specific good description that you can like have a picture in your head while you're reading it about what their life is like and what they do during that time, that Christmas time. Okay, let's keep going. Top of page 240. Excuse me. Finally, the 5th of January, and the boy Reuben and the Gorda Rosalina could hardly sleep. All night they whispered last-minute wishes. The boy thought perhaps if the big box held a bicycle, he would be the first to ride it, since he was the oldest. This made his sister cry until the mama had to yell from her bedroom on the other side of the plastic curtains, "Be quiet or I'm going to give you each the stick," which sounds worse in Spanish than it does in English. Then no one said anything. After a very long time, long after they heard the mama's wheezed breathing and the papa's piped snoring, the children closed their eyes and remembered nothing. Okay, on the left side it says, soon the box will be opened. Make a prediction about what you think is inside, then read on and see if your prediction is right. So take a minute right now. What do you think? They have this big box that's been sitting in their living room. They've all made ideas, thought of lots of different things that could be in it. It's heavy. Okay, we're still recording. Sorry. It's heavy, and so what's in it? Go ahead and write a prediction if you haven't. All right. The papa was already in the bathroom, coughing up the night before from his throat when the urracas began their clownish chirping. The boy Reuben awoke and shook his sister. The mama, frying the potatoes and beans for breakfast, nodded permission for the box to be opened. With a kitchen knife, the boy Reuben cut a careful edge along the top. The Gorda Rosalinda tore the Christmas wrapping with her fingernails. The papa and the mama lifted the cardboard flaps, and everyone peered inside to see what it was the brothers Travis had brought them on the day of the Three Kings. There were layers of bald newspapers stacked on top. When these had been cleared away, the boy Reuben looked inside. The Gorda Rosalinda looked inside. The papa and the mama looked. This is what they saw. The complete Britannica Junior Encyclopedia, 24 volumes in red imitation leather with gold embossed letters, beginning with Volume 1, AAR through BEL, and ending with Volume 24, YEL to ZYN. The girl Rosalinda let out a sad cry, as if her hair was going to be cut again. The boy Reuben pulled out Volume 4, Dead to Femme. There were many pictures and many words, but there were more words than pictures. The papa flipped through Volume 22, but because he could not read English words, he simply put the book back and grunted, "What can we do with this?" No one said anything, and shortly after, the screen door slammed. So I want to stop here just for a minute and make sure that you understand what encyclopedias are, because our world has changed since this story was written. And so now, if you wanted to learn something, you would go to the internet and you would Google it, and you would go to Wikipedia, which is, the word Wikipedia is like wiki, everything, pedia, encyclopedia. They're related. So you can just go to the internet and look up whatever you want to look up now. And you'll find Wikipedia, you'll find other types of things like that. But way a million years ago, when I was a teenager, the internet was starting to be more valuable. But when I was in elementary school, if we really wanted to learn something or know about something, we had to go to books. And so encyclopedias are what Wikipedia is now. And obviously they're not as huge because with the internet, Wikipedia can tell us just about anything, and it can change all the time. But so encyclopedias, they come in a set usually. There's usually one for every letter of the alphabet or close to it, and then you could just look up any subject. So you could look up volcanoes, and you'd find all this stuff. Or you could look up spider monkeys, or you could look up bananas, and you just see tons and tons of information. There'd be an article about as many topics as possible. So these brothers, one of them who's the principal at their school, and the kids are good at school, had given them a set of encyclopedias. And encyclopedias are expensive. So like if you wanted to buy a set of encyclopedias, it would be a couple $100s. It wouldn't be like, I'm going to buy 10 books for $5 each. So they were really expensive, a few $100s to buy a set of encyclopedias. So it was this really expensive, nice gift that they got, but it doesn't get received that way necessarily. So that's what an encyclopedia would be used for. That's really, it was one way to learn anything. Like now we have the internet, you can learn anything, but encyclopedias would have been that source. It would have been like in that time period, about 20 years ago. Anyway, back to the story. Only Mama knew what to do with the contents of the big box. She withdrew volumes 6, 7, and 8, marched off to the dinette set in the kitchen, placed 2 on Rosalinda's chair so she could better reach the table, and put 1 underneath the plant stand that danced. And when it says the plant stand danced, think about what that means. So if you ever had like a table that's rickety, that doesn't sit straight, that kind of wiggles back and forth, that's what she means. The plant stand, it danced. It wasn't even. So she puts a book underneath the leg of it so that it'll sit still. So it's even now. When the boy and the girl returned from school that day, they found the books stacked into squat pillars against the living room wall and a board placed on top. On this were arranged several plastic doilies and framed family photographs. The rest of the volumes the baby Gilberto was playing with, and he was already rubbing his sore gums along the corners of volume 14. The girl Rosalinda also grew interested in the books. She took out her colored pencils and painted blue on the eyelids of the illustrations of women, and with a red pencil dipped in spit, she painted their lips and fingernails red. After a couple of days, when all the pictures of women had been colored in this manner, she began to cut out some of the prettier pictures and paste them on loose-leaf paper. One volume suffered from being exposed to the rain when Papa improvised a hat during a sudden rain shower. He forgot it on the hood of the car when he drove off. When the children came home from school, they set it on the porch to dry, but the pages puffed up and became so fat the book was impossible to close. Only the boy Reuben refused to touch the books. For several days he avoided the principal because he didn't know what to say in case Mr. Travis were to ask how they were enjoying the Christmas present. On the Saturday after New Year's, the mama and the papa went into town for groceries and left the boy in charge of watching his sister and baby brother. The girl Rosalinda was stacking books into spiral staircases and making her paper dolls descend them in a fancy manner. Perhaps the boy Reuben would not have bothered to open the volume left on the kitchen table if he had not seen his mother wedge her name-day corsage in its pages. On the page where the mama's carnation lay pressed between 2 pieces of Kleenex was a picture of a dog in a spaceship. "First dog in space," the caption said. The boy turned to another page and read where cashews came from, and then about the man who had invented the guillotine. The guillotine's the thing that they used to cut off people's heads in the French Revolution. It's a pretty cool machine. And then about Bengal tigers, and all about clouds. All afternoon the boy read and read, even after the mama and the papa came home, even after the sun set, until the mama said, "Time to sleep," and put the light out. In their bed on the other side of the plastic curtain, the mama and the papa slept. Across from them in the crib slept the baby Gilberto. The girl Rosalinda slept on her end of the cot, but the boy Reuben watched the night sky turn from violet to blue to gray, and then from gray to blue to violet once again. All right. So it said deposit line 202, and I forgot because I like the end of the story. But what discovery has Reuben made? So after he starts reading them, what does he discover? What does he realize? Take a minute and answer that question. Okay, we're going to skip the middle question, what and why, because it's going to come back on the paper that you're going to do in small group. But look at the last question there, the one that says infer. What do you think the story's title means? Could it have more than one meaning? So remember, the title of the story is Three Wise Guys. And so let's talk a little about that what it means. So when we talk about wise guys, like if I say, it's common for someone to say, stop being a wise guy. Stop being, a wise guy. That means you're kind of screwing around. You're being like a smart aleck or a smart something else that your mom might say. So a wise guy is kind of like somebody that's goofing around or being silly. But it also refers to the wise men that brought really valuable gifts to the baby Jesus. So are the people that brought this gift, are they wise guys? Are they jokers? Or are they wise men who are bringing in a really valuable gift? What do you think the title is trying to tell us? Who are the wise people in the story? Who are the people that are the most, filled with the most wisdom and intelligence? Think about that as you think about an answer for that question. And today in small group, you are going to work on this worksheet. So you're going to turn in, when you're done, this question, this paper that has all the questions in it, the ones that we've done kind of as we've read, and then also you're going to turn in your worksheet that you're going to do in small group today to Mr. Sherrill before you leave. Okay? Please be very polite and on your best behavior so that when I come back tomorrow we can have a good day. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.